I have to mention one more thing here, folks. I just have to mention, I just saw a link at the Drudge Report. If I click on it here, but U.S. News and World Report. Somehow I missed this. I wasn't able to listen to the entire word-for-word speech, joint session for Congress. Apparently, the Pope echoed President Obama, something he said in a national prayer breakfast speech back in January, almost word for word, that there are extremists in every religion. Well, you heard that? You heard? I didn't. Wouldn't buy me. Anyway, welcome back, folks. It's great to have you. A telephone number here is 800-282-2882. Full disclosure, I will be out tomorrow, taking a much-needed, well-deserved, long overdue, straight-out vacation day. And we are going to have Buck Sexton in here, wrapping up the busy broadcast week. And I'll be back here on Monday, back to our normal broadcast schedule. So this is the final hour for me this week, and that's relevant for those of you on the phones who want to have one last chance at me, 800-282-2882. Okay, to the presidential race, first on the Republican side, because that's where all the interest is. Oh, now I've just been told there's one more story about the Pope I've got to see. Is it something that's happened since the speech before Congress? Oh, he mentioned he mentioned 4 people. Dorothy Day, you mean? Well, as soon as you get it in here, then I'll be able to do something with it. But he did. He cited 4 people during the speech. I don't even remember what 4 now. Okay, it's from the Washington Post. Pope name dropped a radical Catholic activist, and Bernie Sanders couldn't be happier, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Okay, here we go. Bernie Sanders, a lone Democrat presidential hopeful and the only Jewish contender in the House chamber for Pope Francis's speech. When he left, he was beaming as the Pope had cited an American Catholic whom Sanders has had plenty of praise for. The name Dorothy Day has not been used in the U.S. Congress terribly often, Sanders said in a short interview. She was a valiant fighter for workers, was very strong in her belief for social justice, and I think it was an extraordinary thing that he cited her as one of the most important people in recent American history. This would be one of the very, very few times somebody as radical as Dorothy Day was mentioned. Some are suggesting she needs to be canonized. Anyway, Bernie Sanders was just ecstatic over this. Apparently, Dorothy Day was a vital and controversial figure on the American left. She had a thick FBI file compiled by agents tracking her support for Democrat socialism and opposition to foreign wars. She wrote in 1956, "We need to change the system. We need to overthrow not the government, as the authorities are always accusing the communists of conspiring to teach us to do, but this rotten, decadent, putrid, industrial capitalist system, which breeds such suffering in the whited sepulcher of New York." So he cites for praise a noted radical anti-capitalist. And he's not political. Rush, you're just misjudging this. You shouldn't worry about Pope on that regard. Dorothy Day, as it turns out, advocated the Catholic economic theory of distributionism or distributism. In the 1930s, she worked closely with fellow activist Peter Maurin to establish the Catholic worker movement, a pacifist movement that continues to combine direct aid for the poor and homeless with nonviolent direct action on their behalf. She founded a newspaper, the Catholic Worker, in 1931 and served as its editor from 19... And they want to canonize this babe. They want to canonize her, and she's noted for her anti-capitalist statements, ripping apart the capitalist structure of the United States. And here comes Pope Francis mentioning her for praise in his speech today, and Bernie Sanders about had an orgasm in there. He was so excited about it. Okay, don't hit me with any more Pope stuff. I've had my limit of it. We've been there, we've done that, we got the word out. It's up to people now whether they want to accept what the reality of this is or not. We move on to Republican presidential politics. First off, from Bloomberg Politics, there is a poll here, a national survey, which finds that 72% of the American people say their country is not as great as it once was, which it says here is a central theme of frontrunner Donald Trump's campaign. Americans are fed up with politics. They suspect the wealthy are getting an unfair edge, and they think the country is going in the wrong direction. This, according to a new Bloomberg Politics poll that lays in depth and breadth of the discontents propelling outsider candidates in the Republican Party. The survey shows 72% of Americans think the country is not as great as it once was. Okay. And here is in this poll, here are the favorites. In order, Trump at 21, Carson at 16, Jeb Bush at 13, Carly Fiorina at 11%. Boy, the long knives are coming out for her now. Well, the long knives are coming out for Carly Fiorina, and a lot of people are starting to defend her as well. Fox News, Chris Steyerwalt, Polorama, Trump treads water as others rise. After more than a week wandering in the data desert, we've stumbled into an oasis of polls, writes Mr. Steyerwalt. 3 fresh surveys on the Republican race, Fox News, Bloomberg, and Quinnipiac, give us the first reliable snapshot after the second candidate debate. Here are the poll quotes. Trump's share of the vote is the same as it was before the Fox News debate 7 weeks ago. It's a flat line. But the lines beneath him are not flat. Trump's lead over his closest competitor, Ben Carson, has fallen from 14 points to 8 points in the past 2 weeks. And another poll quote. With Bush out of the hunt for now and the field thinning, Trump has to face the reality that his real rivals now are Carson, Rubio, and Fiorina. And despite his attacks, they are still rising. And they're excited about this. Don't forget, at most of the mainstream media outlets, there is a revulsion for Trump. And they have been predicting that he would wipe himself out ever since the day of his announcement. And that hasn't happened. So they have been eagerly anticipating the day they can report he's leveled off. They then are eagerly anticipating the day they can report his support is falling and dwindling. And they are eagerly anticipating the day when they can report one of 2 other things, that either some other candidate has taken the lead over Trump or that Trump has decided to pull out. Those are the 2 future prospects that many in the drive-by media now are wedded to and excited about. And in fact, here at the Washington Post, Donald Trump's slide in the polls is beginning to look real. This is a story by Philip Bump. You might have seen new national poll numbers from Fox News released on Wednesday night. Donald Trump remains in first place in the race actually increased his share of support from 25% to 26%. But wait. You might also have seen CNN's new poll from over the weekend. That one had Trump at 24%, down from 32%. Trump gets real mad when you cite that poll, by the way. He doesn't like you talking about that poll. That's why he got mad at O'Reilly. Because O'Reilly cited the CNN poll, Trump got mad. And then there's the Bloomberg poll out today showing Trump at 21, right where he's always been. So what gives here? So you got 3 polls, Trump flat in 2 of them and down 8 points in another one. I'll tell you what gives here. Leave it to me to provide the answer. What gives is that the Washington Post is still harping on one poll that showed Trump's number declining. They are ignoring all the other more recent polls that show him staying the same or going up, even if it's just a point or two. And what gives is the Washington Post has completely given up all pretense of journalism and is now working full-time in the propaganda business. That's what's up. Since they asked, I'm happy to answer. Here are some other articles by Philip Bump in just the last 2 days. Donald Trump says he didn't speak to a half-empty room, but he did. Donald Trump's long-running quest to improve our vocabularies. Who Donald Trump is at war with in the media as of Wednesday afternoon. Those are other articles. And here's some Washington Post articles by other reporters just from today. Trump, Rand Paul is shrill too. Donald Trump wants the FCC to fine a critical Fox News pundit. That'd be Rich Lowry. And Donald Trump calls Hillary Clinton shrill. And then Chris Cillizza in the Washington Post yesterday had a story entitled Why Republicans Are Starting to Panic in one paragraph. Would you like to hear that? You want to know why you're panicking, folks? Oh, no, not you. The Republican establishment is panicking. That's what Cillizza is saying. It's a paragraph written by Pete Wehner. Pete's a friend of mine. Pete worked with Karl Rove in the Bush White House. And before that, he was at Empower America with Bill Bennett, which is where I met him. And Pete now works at Ethics and Public Policy think tank, and I think at Commentary. He now writes under his own name and has for a while, instead of writing position papers for others. And this is the paragraph that he wrote in a piece called The GOP is Killing Itself. And this paragraph is what Cillizza cites as the one paragraph that explains why Republicans are starting to panic. Are you ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Here comes the paragraph. The message being sent to voters is this. The Republican Party is led by people who are profoundly uncomfortable with the changing and inevitable demographic nature of our nation. The GOP is longing to return to the past and is fearful of the future. It is a party that is characterized by resentments and grievances, by distress and dismay, by the belief that America is irredeemably corrupt and past the point of no return. The American dream is dead, in the emphatic words of Mr. Trump. Now, that paragraph was written by Pete, because that's what he's afraid people supporting Trump think. He's afraid that the message you are getting, and the reason why you're supporting Trump is because you think all of this. You think the Republican Party is led by people profoundly uncomfortable with the change and inevitable demographic nature of our nation, that you think the GOP is longing to return to the past and is fearful of the future. Or that you think the Republican Party doesn't get all of this and it's why it's becoming a minority party. Anyway, the bottom line is the things that you who would normally vote Republican are supporting are things that the Republican establishment feels will kill it, is the bottom line. And they're very much, and so Cillizza, writing in the Washington Post, read Pete's paragraph here. Oh, the Republicans are starting to panic. In that paragraph that Pete Wehner wrote, that explains why. So basically, the Republican establishment is worried that they are being, well, that the lack of support for their candidates means that Republican voters don't want to change. Republican voters are locked in the past. Republican voters want to pretend we're still a white country. Republican voters want to pretend they can win without the Hispanic vote. And the Republican leadership knows none of that's true and it can't happen. In fact, Saliza goes on to write, if for Romney to have won, he would have had to get 65% of the white vote, and it was never going to happen. And that no Republican can win with just a majority of the white vote because there aren't enough white people anymore. That's why you got to go Hispanics. That's why you got to go Asian. We got to reach out to the other demographics. And the Republican establishment thinks that Republican voters don't want to do any of that. So therefore, their party's dead. And then when they see a poll that says 72%, like the Bloomberg poll here, 72% of the American people agree that we have lost our greatness. The Republican establishment thinks that's not true, but that you think it's true because people like Trump are coming along and campaigning just for white people. And that we can't win with just white people. And you're going to have to understand this. And that the reaching out to Hispanic voters is not about amnesty, but it's just about the demographic shift. And we've got to prove to these people that we don't hate them. And when you vote for Trump, you're telling people that you hate them. That's what they're worried about. My interpretation, anyway. So we'll take a break. We'll come back. Sound bites coming up that illustrate all of this. Hang tough. And we go to Donald Trump here in Columbia, South Carolina. Last night, he was the guest at a town hall campaign event hosted by Senator Tim Scott. And during the Q&A, Tim Scott said there's so many people who have the same question on the issue of immigration. Securing the borders without any question is one of your top priorities we heard you talk about. I'd also ask you to go into depth how you would secure the border. What are a couple things you do to secure the port border, and what do you think about our legal immigration?
When I announced 3 months ago that I was running, I made statements, and everyone thought it was wonderful. But then about a week later, Rush Limbaugh said, nobody has ever received so much incoming. I had never heard the word. Incoming means the press. And I brought up illegal immigration. It turned out I was right.
Right. He didn't answer the question there, except to use my name, which, let's face it, folks, it works magic. It just does. Anyway, that's become a stock, almost a regular appearance. And the reason is it did happen. He makes that announcement, and everybody just jumped. In an 18-hour period, I don't recall as many media salvos and attacks. I mean, it was wall to wall over things he'd said about the rapists and purse snatchers and muggers that were immigrating, or not immigrating, but invading the country. Tim Scott said the Iran deal's terrible. How do you intend to help protect Israel under a regime that's moving very quickly towards a nuclear bomb?
Who would you rather have negotiating, Trump or those clowns that are negotiating right now? Okay? Then I get these lightweights like Rubio. He gets up and he says, well, Donald Trump didn't talk about foreign policy. I don't want to tell too much. Romney should have won the last election. Something happened to him. He choked. Something happens. Like a golfer on the 18th hole. He can't sink the putt.
We still didn't get the answer. He just said, who would you rather have negotiating, Trump or these clowns that are negotiating right now, okay? And I get these lightweights like Rubio. He gets up and says, well, Trump doesn't talk about foreign policy. Trump says, I'm not going to give away my secrets here. I'm not going to tell you or anybody else how I plan to talk to these people. Why telegraph that? Just don't doubt me. I'm going to go in there, and it's going to be great. I'm gonna make deals with these people like they've never had deals made before. I got people going to run in rings around them. And he's relying on people to have faith in his ability and confidence in his ability to get that done. There's more. Don't go away. What you're waiting on is coming up. Just be patient. The saga continues. And yes, your phone calls are coming up too. Finally, Charleston, South Carolina, North Charleston, South Carolina African American Chamber of Commerce annual conference. Donald Trump spoke and had this to say, among other things, about Mrs. Clinton.
Hillary, who's become very shrill. You know the word shrill? She's become shrill. She was saying what I said about Obama, and yet in 2008, she was the original birther. She's the one that started that whole thing. Hillary is a birther. By the way, don't switch your votes to Hillary, please.
Why would anybody at this Chamber of Commerce do that? But he's right. She did start the birther. She's the one that first questioned it. In fact, she and Obama had a knockdown drag-out, we're told, on the tarmac at an airport, like at Washington Reagan or somewhere over all of this. Obama was really put out over her comment, as far as I know, he's not Muslim. And so all of this has come to a head. You've got the drive-bys wishing Trump would fade away. You've got the Republican establishment of drive-bys not understanding why Trump hasn't faded away yet. I mean, they're really frustrated. They see Trump, he's not fading. He's holding steady in most of the polls, in the upper point or two. They don't understand it. And they are afraid of it, and they oppose it, and they're afraid it means the end of the Republican Party. Folks, you have to understand that Jeb was the guy. Jeb is the guy. I mean, I don't want to speak past it. Jeb is the guy. Jeb is the guy that was going to get all the money. Jeb is the guy that was going to return the Republicans to the White House. Jeb was the mainstream Republican hero. He was the guy that was going to unite everybody and win this without needing the base. They had so much invested in Jeb. They have so much invested in Jeb. And the largest investment in Jeb was that they found a way for him to win the nomination without having to pander to or need any of the support from the base. And the strategy involved money. Now, the donors had no problems giving money to Jeb, but they want to see something higher than 6 or 7%. And if they don't see 6 or 7%, when the debates come, they want to see some sign that it might improve. So they're getting nervous. And they're all frustrated because the bottom line of all of the people that I'm talking, the drive-bys and the Republican establishment, they do not think that Trump is going to be there at the end of all this. I don't know if they think he's going to lose or if they think he's going to withdraw or if they think he's going to be humiliated out. That's probably what they would prefer. But I think in their long-term view of things, to them, this is really, we're still in preseason. That's why they're so upset. They're losing meaningful games in what should be a meaningless preseason, these first debates. I mean, their guy around whom every strategy they've built for the future is not where he was supposed to be here. And the money's getting nervous. And Trump was supposed to be long gone. And remember, they don't think Trump's going to be there anyway. So now they're really getting worried that Trump is doing irreparable damage. And he's not going to be able to pick up the pieces. He's going to make this mess. And then they're not going to be able to fix it and win. Because the party, image, brand, reputation, going to be so damaged by the time Trump goes that there's nobody left in the field who could put it back together. That is my read on this. Nobody's told me that. That's just my read on it. And believe me, the key ingredient of that strategy is, I believe, they don't think Trump is in this to win. They don't think he's in this for real. They don't think he wants it. They don't think he's going to be around for the duration. And so that's why they're really ticked off about this. Because they think He's treating this as a toy, you know, the next playground to have some fun in. So they're not taking him that seriously, but he's lasted a lot longer than they thought. But they still think he's going to be gone. But the damage that he's doing, they think is unfixable. And you look at all the candidates on the Republican side. You look at the candidates you would describe as the establishment candidates. They're all in the bottom tier. And it's all these newcomers and no chancers. By that I mean the establishment looked at him and said, that fat chance, Carson, Fiorina, Trump. No way. No way. I mean, those guys don't even have a chance. And here they are leading the roost and gaining ground. And their preferred candidate and candidates are losing ground. I mean, it is panic time. They don't see that the Republican Party might be in the process of being overtaken or modernized or transformed. They look at it as being destroyed. And they don't think they have any role in it. They don't think they're doing any of the damage. The damage is being done by all of these outsider rookies who don't understand anything about how this game is played. Trump, Carson, maybe Carly, but at the end of the day, Carly's one of them. At the end of the day, Carly is an establishment Republican at the end of the process. No question about that. So the frustration in the drive-bys, the frustration on the Republican side, the frustration in the Republican conservative media is almost at explosive levels. They don't know what to do. They are scared to death that this whole process is destroying their power base. Which takes us to Fox News and the Megyn Kelly show last night. And first off, here is Megyn telling us why Trump is a sexist. She has as her guests here Rich Lowry, the editor of National Review. And it starts with Megyn opening his comment.
Trump comes out and sort of sets up a straw man that people say he's a sexist because he says Carly had difficulties in her business career. That's not true. People said he was sexist because he made fun of her face. You listen to her pitter-patter for more than 5 minutes, and she gives you a headache. Those are known as sort of code words for this woman drives me nuts because of, we've heard these things before.
Okay, so Megyn offers her opinion here that Trump is a sexist. And that's why. Now, you can't blame her for having animus for Trump. I mean, that relationship makes sense to us. And understand why Trump's mad. And understand why she would be mad. That makes all sense in the world. The things that she cites here, Trump, well, he made fun of her face, and then he said, you listen to her pitter-patter for more than 5 minutes, it gives you a headache. All of that is stereotypical humor rooted in caveman days. And any modern woman is going to hate that. They're not going to find in it any funny. Like the old mother-in-law joke, the bad news, good news conundrum. You just bought a brand new, whatever your favorite car, you just had it delivered, and the next thing you know, it's going over the cliff, but your mother-in-law is driving. That's an old stereotypical joke, mother-in-law jokes. On a windy day. Guys, that's a mother-in-law convention out there. The mother-in-laws are intrusive and they always disapprove. It's stereotypical stuff. Those jokes do not play today. They don't go over. So when you refer to a woman as a nattering nabob, you're calling her a nag. And the number one rated female primetime news anchor is not going to find it funny for another woman to be called a nag. So you can understand why those kind of things would irritate her. Now it's time Rich Lowry, National Review, steps up to the plate to take his swings for the establishment club, for the team, following what Megyn just said.
I think part of what's going on here is that last debate. Let's be honest. Carly cut his balls off with the precision of a surgeon, and he knows it. He knows it. He's insulted and bullied his way to the top of the polls. No one was able to best him ever except for this tough lady on that stage, and it must kill him. He must be simmering about it to this night.
All right, so you heard Megan in there. I don't know if you heard Megan. What did you just say? You can't say that, but he did. Yeah, I'll be happy to play this one more time. It roused Wendy from her slumber in there. Here it is, Rich Lowry taking his swings for the team, following Megyn Kelly's comments about Trump being a sexist.
I think part of what's going on here is that last debate. Let's be honest. Carly cut his balls off with the precision of a surgeon, and he knows it. He knows it. He's insulted and bullied his way to the top of the polls. No one was able to best him ever except for this tough lady on that stage, and it must kill him. He must be simmering about it to this night.
Okay, so that Lowry was following Kelly saying that Trump uses sexist code words about women, and she's out there, what did you say? You can't say that. But they all loved it. They all loved it. Well, now, Trump has responded. I have to take a brief time out, but we'll share with you Trump's response and some of the criticism that response is getting when we get back here. Okay, so Rich Lowry said on Megyn Kelly last night that Carly Fiorina surgically removed Trump's package. And he's very irritated about this, and he's humiliated by it. He's fighting back, and he's been taken off his game by this woman, and he can't stand it. So Trump was on CNN today with Allison Camerata, and she said, why are you in this spat with those people over at Fox? You say that Fox News hasn't treated you fairly. How?
They have pundits on the show. I mean, one of them made a total fool of himself last night. He totally lost it. Looked like he was having a nervous breakdown on television. And he used words that were so unbelievable, maybe he'll be fined or censured or thrown off. A guy named Rich Lowry, who I never even heard of. But he said something that I've never heard on television before. I was shocked. But he lost it. It was wonderful watching this guy lose it because, you know, he's a bad guy.
Right, he's a bad guy. And so they knew what happened at CNN. They were just baiting Trump there. Trump went on to suggest the FCC should move in and fine Fox or fine Lowry. And a lot of people are saying, you people supporting Trump, you need to wake up and listen to this now. This is not a conservative doesn't go crying to government when somebody insults him like this. You don't go calling the FCC and demanding the FCC fine that guy or do this or that. You people supporting Trump, you understand this is not a conservative. Conservatives don't go to government to get even with people like this. That's I think it's ridiculous, but that's what some people are trying. They're trying to talk Trump supporters out of supporting him by saying, you guys think he's conservative. Look, he's going into the FCC, fine Lowry, and so forth. I mean, that's neophyte kind of stuff. You Trump supporters ought to realize what you're doing here. I don't think they get that it's all just Trump's not. He's just chatting there. It is funny though how people. This whole thing is causing people to make drastic changes in their own behavior. That is making people sit up and take notice. It's kind of fast for those of us who are just observing this and watching it go by. Fascinating to see. Well, that's it, folks. That's it for another exciting excursion into broadcast excellence. And again, a reminder, I am going to be out tomorrow with a long-awaited, much-deserved, eagerly anticipated, and it's going to go by way too fast, vacation day. Buck Sexton. Where's Buck from? Where's he going to be? In Dallas? Oh, he's going to be Sherman Oaks. Okay, so Buck will be out in Sherman Oaks. Well, tell him not to screw up with the printer out there. Okay. See you on Monday, folks. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Cheerio.